not hearing anything.
Okay, how about now?
Hello?
Yeah.
Meeting of the Mayor and City Council of Roswell. I'd like to invite Chief Williams to come forward and lead us in the pledge. We'd all stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Chief, while you're there, I have a proclamation to read on your behalf, so if you'll stay stationary. Whereas, in 1975, Edwin Williams began his career as a police officer, sergeant, and detective with the city of West Point, Georgia, and subsequently an investigator with the Troup County Sheriff's Office. And whereas in 1994, Edwin Williams was appointed Chief of Police for the city of Roswell after serving as Chief of Police for Ocilla, Georgia, and Americus, Georgia. And whereas Edwin Williams graduated from the Georgia Bureau of Investigation Academy, the Federal Bureau of Investigation National Academy, and earned his master's in public administration for Columbus State University, Chief Williams served as president of the Georgia Association of Chief of Police and was appointed by Governor Barnes to the Georgia Commission of Hispanic Affairs and served as chairman of the Justice Committee. And whereas in 1995, Chief Williams oversaw the successful accreditation of the Roswell Police Department by the Commission on Accreditation of Law Enforcement Agencies, and Chief Williams implemented many innovative programs, including the Take-Home Car Plan, which enables off-duty officers to respond to emergencies in a more timely fashion. And whereas Chief Williams has served all the citizens of Roswell with distinction, fairness, and honor, always bearing in mind the best interest of the citizens of Roswell, and has always strived to give the very best law enforcement services to the citizens of Roswell. And whereas during the past 17 years, the city of Roswell's population and police department has grown substantially while maintaining one of the lowest crime rates in the nation under Chief Williams' leadership. And whereas on February 1st, 2011, Chief Williams will retire after 35 years of law enforcement service and plans to enjoy his retirement by spending time with his wife of 30 years, Tori Williams, and by being a full-time grandfather to his 6 grandchildren. And Chief Williams will also continue to support the city of Roswell and the Roswell Police Department and all those who serve and protect our citizens of Roswell. Now, therefore, I, Jerry Wood, Mayor of Roswell, do hereby proclaim February 1st, 2011 as Chief Edwin Williams Day, and ask all of our citizens and the City of Roswell Police Department to join us in honoring and recognizing Chief Williams for his commendable career and congratulate him on well-deserved retirement. Thank you, Chief Williams.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Appreciate it.
Williams, I had asked you to bring your crime statistics, report on that to your last report to this council. Have you got your crime statistics?
Yes, sir. I have it in the computer there.
Go get your computer. I'd like you to report to the council on how we did on crime statistics this year. And then we'll give the floor to you for that.
I sent each of you a copy of our annual report. This would be the calendar year, the crime statistics for the calendar year. Now, when we speak of crime statistics, we are talking about something called the index crime rate, which includes crimes identified by the Federal Bureau of Investigation as being the most serious crimes. And we're very pleased to report that those crime numbers, the actual numbers of crimes, and therefore the percentage by population, has decreased significantly. It's 18% decrease over last year, which was a 2% decrease over the previous year. For several years, the crime stats have really remained about the same, going up 2%, 5%, or down the same amount. But this is I looked back as far as we have records, and this is the lowest that it has been. There were a total of 2,128 index crimes reported in calendar year 2010, and that's a crime index rate by population of 22 crimes per 1,000 people, which should hopefully get us again on that list of one of the safest cities in the United States. There are a number of other statistics on that chart. If anyone has any questions about those, or rather on that report, if anyone has any questions about those, I'd be happy to respond to them.
Chief Williams, I want to compliment the Roswell Police Department and the citizens of Roswell for that great record. The chief tells me every time he shows me statistics, he says, I never like to brag about statistics because next month they could go back up.
They will.
But this time he doesn't have to worry about the statistics going back up next month because he will not be his responsibility anymore. So I think he could. He has a well-deserved retirement, but as far as statistics, Chief, I think your timing was perfect.
That did work out pretty good. But if there's any credit due, I mean, there are some programs. I think we did the crime-free multi-housing program was very helpful in the statistics this year. Of course, crime is down all over. I mean, you know Atlanta's crime rate. Atlanta's reporting their crime rate now, also. So it's down all over. But with the ability to respond as fast as we do, when I was mentioned, and I thank you for mentioning the take-home car plan, that's certainly very important because we have officers working extra jobs all over town. That doubles many times the number of officers we have ready to respond. And oftentimes, crimes are responded to by people who were off duty, but they were in uniform, in a car, had all their equipment, and they were able to capture the suspects in the act or shortly thereafter. We had a tremendous year last year, and these are the ladies and gentlemen in the back here that actually make that happen. It is them. No program can have a great effect by itself. It has to have people that implement it. Our special operations sections had some successes, but of course the most important officer still is that officer on the beat. And so when they respond in a timely fashion as they do, when they work as hard and as earnestly as they do, it helps in finding these guys, getting them in jail, keeping them there so that they can't come back out and commit other crimes. So if there's anything to brag about, it would be those rank and file officers back there that are out every night in the cold and the wet, in the ice, in the storm, seeing to it that we all get to sleep a whole lot better. And if you guys would just be sure to lock your cars and not leave computers on the front seat, our crime rate would go down another 18%. But thank you very much, Mr. Baird. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to respond to those.
I'm going to open up for closing words from council. Does any council members have any closing words? Councilman Orleans.
Chief Williams, it seems like it was just yesterday that we were interviewing you and was involved in hiring you for the city of Roswell, and it was one of the good hires we made. And I really appreciate all the years and the time and effort you put in here. Of course, if I remember correctly, the main reason we hired you was because of Tori. I'm not sure if it's because of you.
Yes, sir. My much better half.
No, just teasing. But appreciate what you've done for the city, and of course, we are expecting you to still be involved in the city. You're still living in the city, so you've been a good friend, good chief, and I appreciate the years over here at City Roswell for you.
Thank you. Anytime, if I can do anything, please don't hesitate to call on me.
Any other words?
Sure. Chief Williams, we just so appreciate the devotion and dedication that you've given to the city, and we wish you well in your future. I know I asked my husband, I said, now, what do you think of the police chief? He goes, great guy, great guy. So I always echoed his words. If anybody asks me, I should say, great guy, great guy. So we appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Chief, I've always said that you are the best politician in this city, and that is with everybody up here, anywhere else, and I think that's still true. Because no matter what gets thrown at you, you still figure out how to keep forging ahead and generally make everybody happy, and that's a pretty tough thing to do. So you've done a great job, and I really appreciate personally the help you've given me in the 2 years that I was the liaison to public safety, and then all the things outside of that as well for both me and for the city. And I had to shave down to a mustache for a film project I'm working on, but after seeing tonight, I think I'm going to say I did it to look like Chief Williams, in honor of Chief Williams tonight. But thank you for all you've done, and we'll miss you, at least in that capacity, and look forward to seeing you to other things.
Thank you, sir.
Chief Williams, I can remember the first time I met you is when I decided to run for city council, and I said, could I have 15 minutes, and turned into an hour and 15 minutes.
Well, I'm sorry about that.
No. In fact, somebody said only an hour and 15 minutes, the way the two of you talk, that's a record. But I can remember how you, very patient, very understanding, always was there if I ever needed a phone call for you, and you called me right back on any issue, and how you explained it and the patience, and you're just full of integrity, and I really, really respect you, and that's how come the last two words I'm going to say to you tonight, and I can't believe I'm saying this, roll tide.
Roll Tide. Thank you.
Chief, thank you so much for all you've done. Your leadership has been fantastic, and you've led the city through a lot of growth, and that's growth of the department that had to go along with it. And we really appreciate you keeping up with that and building a wonderful department. You're leaving us in great shape. Now, I also wanted to really reiterate what Councilwoman Wynn said. You're always there, always willing to talk, always willing to help, and that's not just for us, but for employees in the city and for citizens. If somebody needs you, you're there to help, and we have really appreciated that commitment. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
I think we met about, 15 years ago with
Yes.
Star House, and you were the best spokesperson we could have had to get that organization out in the public eye, because everyone looks at you with such respect and knows that when you say something, it means something. And the way you took the time with the kids and made Star House a priority at times in your schedule was not lost on any of us in that organization. And I did not have any idea at that point we'd be working together at some point. But this has been, I think you've made it the best gig and the easiest liaison thing, I think, of all of us up here, because you have been so responsive, and you've taught me all the acronyms and all the different things, and all about Alabama football and all the other things that we did. But I appreciate you answering the phone like you're happy to answer the phone, whether you were or not. You made it very easy to do, and I really appreciate it. And I will not lose your phone number. As we've discussed before, you can't go far because you are a Roswell citizen, and we hope to see you here giving input as a citizen soon.
Thank you. One thing that the city has done, and I appreciate that I will be able to keep this phone number. I'll move it, of course, to my personal account, but the city's going to let me keep this number, and I wanted to do that so that I could be available if there's anything I can ever do. And as I said, somebody said, well, what if you get a call and you don't want to talk to them? I know where the end button is. I don't work for you anymore. I can press the end button and stop that thing. No, in all seriousness, I do want to, you can't just walk away. This is a career. It's a life choice. Much like a military career. The fire service is exactly the same way. And it's not something, as much as everyone I'm sure loves their jobs, if you come over to our side for just a little bit and do this, you'll see what I'm talking about. And I don't want to walk away from the people. I am looking forward, though, to spending time at home. Everybody's asking me, what are you going to do? I have a farm in Alabama. I'm going to go over there where actually Roll Tide begins and ends every sentence. So I'll be here for a while as Miss Torrey continues to work and provide insurance for me. And she needs to be close to the airport. And, of course, I will be transitioning, though, over there. And if something comes up, I may take that. But seriously, I want to be here and help you guys in any way I possibly can. And that said, thank you very much for all the kind words.
Chief, anything else? Chief, usually you have to cut him short. He's been uncharacteristically brief today. Anything else you'd like to add?
Well, I'm usually trying to convince you of something, and you are sometimes hard to convince, and I found that I can wear you down if I'll just keep talking. You finally just say, give him what he wants, and let's just move on. So, no, I'm finished, sir. Thank you very much.
Chief, tonight being your last official meeting here on the council, you are excused if you want to go home early. Normally the chief sticks around until the bitter end, but Chief, you are excused and may leave at any time. And it's been a pleasure working with you. The chief has always been professional. He's always someone I have turned to when I have a troubling problem. His advice has always been good, and we'll miss it. Chief, good to have you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Brown. Appreciate it.
And as the chief walks into the sunset, we have someone brand new to introduce. I'd like to call Morgan Timmis to introduce a brand new employee just starting with the City of Roswell.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. This is the gentleman who has replaced Sandra Mabry as our new Cultural Arts Center coordinator. And I just wanted to tell you a little bit about him and what we went through to find this gentleman. Believe it or not, we had over 200 applications for that position from all across the country. And it took several rounds of interviews and discussions to narrow it down. I did a pre-interview questionnaire that went out to 22 people. 15 responded. I did 12 first-round interviews and narrowed that group down to 7, and the Cultural Arts Board members got involved in the second round of interviews, and out of that process we selected Jess. He's excited to have the opportunity to contribute to the artistic development of Roswell as coordinator of the Cultural Arts Center. He's a graduate of both the Interlochen Arts Academy and the University of North Carolina at Asheville with a bachelor's degree in drama. Jess has spent several years working in theaters in both North Carolina and Georgia, and most recently he comes to us from his position as production manager at the Gwinnett Center's Performing Arts Center. He's been involved in the arts since a very young age, having been classically trained on the violin. He also has worked in nearly every job there is to have in the theater universe. He's been director, production manager, master electrician, lighting designer, artistic director, house manager, sound designer, and technical director. And he even founded and operated his own theater company in Asheville for several years before moving here to Atlanta. But in addition to Jess's excellent professional qualifications for the position, he was selected for his professional yet personable demeanor. I was very struck by his thorough and thoughtful approach throughout the application process, and he has a great sense of humor, which makes him a lot of fun to work with. And he's going to be a great part of the Historic and Cultural Affairs team. In fact, he already feels like a part of the City of Roswell family. His outside interests include being the father of 2 beautiful young daughters, Madeline and Sophia, and he's married to his very wonderfully supportive wife, Jennifer. He lives in Tucker. I keep telling him that won't last long. And enjoys hearing live music, playing the guitar, writing songs, cooking, and traveling. So I am very, very pleased to introduce you to Mr. Jess Wells.
Jess, welcome to Roswell. We have a small program, but a program that is growing. You've got a great group of people to work with here, and lots of potential and lots of room for growth, and we're interested in working with you and Morgan and our Cultural Arts Board in making things great. And so I'll give you an opportunity to address council.
Thank you. I really appreciate the chance to be up here tonight talking to all of you and to you, Mr. Mayor. I want to say that this is a great opportunity, that the Cultural Arts Center for the City of Roswell is primed and positioned to really make a mark in the cultural community of Roswell. And I really want to say that I'm here to embrace that opportunity and to start working with the mayor and the council in order to make that happen. If I can, I'd like to make a plug.
Yes, sir. This is your opportunity.
Our first real production as the Cultural Arts Center is going to be coming up on February 10th. We are inviting a national group to come in, and this is a group entitled Nuttin' But Strings, and they are rock urban violinists, and they are going to be gracing our stage. That is exactly right.
Put this on the screen.
That's exactly it.
Put this on the overhead. It's very cool.
I don't have one. Could you get one? It would be good.
Well, we are going to be presenting Nuttin' But Strings on February 10th, and this is a foray that the City of Roswell is going to make into the presenting realm, it is my hope that we will see many of the members of council and in the audience here tonight here in attendance. So,
Well, Jess, they wear Nothing But Strings, and I both have a appreciation of Chuck Taylor All-Stars, and so I'll have to wear my Chuck Taylors that night in sympathy with our performers. So I plan on coming, and I'll bring my wife, and I encourage everyone else to come. Morgan, while you're up there,
Yes, sir.
why don't you tell us, I see we've got the Cultural Arts Board, why don't you tell us about the exciting month of February?
I'd be happy to. Thank you. We really are I'm just so excited I can hardly stand it. If you haven't heard of Nothing But Strings, they were second place winners on one of the seasons of America's Got Talent, which is when I first heard of them. But they have gone on to do all kinds of things. They've been featured in the feature film Steppin' Up, and they've been on Dancing with the Stars, and they've played at various inaugurations. They're a true national act, and so they're going to be fantastic. So we are featuring them in the festival, but in addition, we have 5 fantastic exhibits. Each house will have a special exhibit. We'll have the art exhibit in the lobby with an artist who I believe comes from Liberia. And then we'll have Sharing the Story of Slavery at Bullock Hall, the Mamie Cotton's Legacy exhibit at Smith Plantation, and By Skilled Hands exhibit at Barrington Hall. We will have our usual hits. We'll have the Poetry Slam, and I also encourage you all to attend that if you haven't ever been. It's a really fun night, unlike anything you've probably ever experienced. We'll be having our Unity concert once again, and the tea and hat fashion shows that Smith Plantation produces. Of course, the Groveway Community Group will have its program, which is sort of the founding cornerstone of this entire festival, on February 6th at the Cultural Arts Center. The library is having several programs with authors and children's programming. Bullock Hall is having a program called The Legacy of Daddy Williams, one of the slaves at Bullock Hall. One of his descendants is coming to speak. And we got a gospel choir that's going to be performing at Barrington. Just more things than you can shake a stick at. It's all right.
Don't miss it. There's lots of events. Where are these in the hall if folks want to walk out?
They're on the table as they walk out, at the end of each long table at the back.
It brings life to an otherwise sort of a drab month. And
Yes.
so we appreciate all the programs that the Cultural Arts Board and the African American community are bringing to us, and it really has become a great month for Roswell.
It is. We're very proud.
Thank you.
Thank
Let's have
you
a
so
hand
much.
for Jess and Morgan. And I'd like to call Chief Spencer with another introduction.
Good evening, all. I would like to express my condolences to Chief Williams. When Chief Williams first came here, I don't know if she's still in the room. Probably
You
okay.
can say anything you want.
Okay, good. Going after them. When he came to Roswell and was appointed the police chief, he didn't have a place to stay, didn't have any money, so we put him up in the fire station for, I don't know, a few weeks, hoping we could convert him over to the fire department, but he just wouldn't go. But through our years of working together, Chief Williams has been a very admirable person. He's looked out for the fire department. We've looked out for him, so we're going to miss him and wish him all the best. Tonight, I have a new employee, our new training officer for the Roswell Alpharetta Public Safety Training Center and the Roswell Fire Department. Comes to us from a large metro department, DeKalb County, where Robert Summers worked for over 30 years. He started his career at DeKalb County. He rose up through the ranks all the way to the rank of assistant chief. And when the retirement date came, he took it. Well, it didn't take him long to understand that you just can't walk away from the fire department. So we happened to have a position available, training officer, because our current training officer of that time was Captain Mike Vickery. He got promoted to battalion chief, and we were so fortunate that Mr. Summers came in and filled out an application, and we checked him out real good and put him right to work. So Robert lives in Tucker. Must be something about Tucker tonight that got everybody coming to Roswell, but he lives in Tucker with his wife, Natalie, and his 2 children, and I know he's going to be here for another 10 or 15 years because his children are very young, and he's got to put them through school. So Robert's expertise in the fire service goes from training to special operations. He is a special operations guru. He helped bring the ropes high angle rescue to the state of Georgia many, many years ago, and one of the recipients of that program was the city of Roswell through a captain we had named Paul Bostwick. So we're so excited that Robert's here. I'm just lost for words that he said yes when we asked him to come to work. So Mayor, Council, Captain Robert Summers.
Robert Summers, welcome to Roswell. We appreciate your bringing your years of service and your knowledge of the fire department here to make Roswell Fire Department an even better place. We pride the training that we offer at the Roswell Alpharetta facility, and we're proud to have you and your experience serving the city of Roswell. And with that, we'll give you an opportunity to address the council.
Here are my notes. Mayor, council members, I want to thank you so much for the opportunity that was offered to me, and thank Chief Spencer for taking a second look at my resume and inviting me to come to work for the city of Roswell. I have to tell you, I have been. I was born in Atlanta. I'm a native. I've lived here all my life, and I have spent a lot of time growing up in Roswell, one way or the other. It has nothing to do with in the 70s in the Great Raft Race and all those kind of things. But actually, my dad was he was trying to get shut down all the time. But he was. Anyway, I'll stop there. Seriously, I have worked with a number of Roswell employees who work for DeKalb County as well. They all come back just singing the praises of Roswell and what a great place it is to work. I would hear things, they come back and say things like, "Where's K Love?" And they would, but really it's easy to tell that Roswell fosters an atmosphere where people want to come to work, and I want to be a part of that. And so I just thank you for that opportunity. And I will be. 30 years with DeKalb is just the beginning. I have a 6-year-old and an 11-year-old, and so I'm here to work for a long time. Anyway, thank you so very much, and I look forward to working with all the departments in Roswell, the citizens in Roswell, and of course the mayor and the council. Thank you.
Let's have him for Robert and the fire department. Welcome. And we're back to work. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Motion by Councilmember Price. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Orleans. Does anyone in the council and in the audience have any questions regarding the consent agenda? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously. I see we have a Boy Scout here. You haven't missed my notice. We require all of our Boy Scouts to come to the microphone, even if they don't lead us in the pledge. So, young men, come forward. Part of your hazing at the Roswell City Hall. As you're coming, I want you to tell you this council appreciate Boy Scouts. Councilmember Price is the mother of an Eagle Scout, and I'm sure she had something to do with him reaching that rank.
Yes, I'm in his troop.
In his troop, and Councilman Orleans was a longtime Boy Scout. And Rich, did you have anything to do with the Boy Scouts? Rich was in the Boy Scouts. Becky and Nancy didn't have that opportunity. Her brother was a Boy Scout, and my brother and I were both Eagle Scouts. Or I guess we're still Eagle Scouts under the terminology. So welcome here, and I hope you're working on your Eagle Scout and getting your merit badges together.
I am. I am about 2 weeks to my birthday, 18th birthday, so I'm crunching it in here.
Well, I'm glad you saved the best for last.
Yep.
Welcome to Roswell.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And with that, we'll move on to Councilman Jerry Orleans, liaison to the Administration and Finance Department.
Tonight we've got one of our first steps moving forward in the ERP that we've been talking about for the last, I think, 15, 20 years. Hopefully we can get it implemented in the next 15, 20 years. We're looking for approval from the mayor and our city administrator to sign a contract with Tyler Technologies and SimPro for the general government enterprise resource planning software in the amount of $2,521,648. And Mr. Fisher is here to explain what we're doing and answer any questions.
Thank you, Councilman Orleans. That is correct. You guys have heard a lot of information recently about the ERP process through the committee meetings and through some updates that we've had. But through the 6 different respondents we had for the RFP, we've narrowed it down. We worked with Plant Moran, who is our consultant on this project, and the ERP steering committee, which is made up of the department heads and some other key stakeholders within the city, have gotten together and worked through this process to narrow it down to Tyler Technologies. We've worked through a very thorough negotiation process with them and have come up to the dollar amount that Councilman Orleans has brought forth tonight. It does cover many of the areas that the city government uses in our day-to-day operations to help the technologies come together and to be much more efficient in our processes. So our request would be for the mayor or city administrator to sign the contract with Tyler Technologies and SimPro. By the way, I may need to explain, SimPro is one of the business partners of Tyler Technologies, but they are a third party that integrates with Tyler. Tyler brings them on board in the process, so their part of the contract would be signed to them rather than to Tyler, which is why I've got Tyler Technologies and SimPro included, so we could be clear that there are 2 that we're signing with.
And so this will develop an integrated software system so all of the city departments can work together.
Yes, sir.
And the time period for implementing this system?
About 25 months from the start, and in the contract, the start will be within 30 days of the signing of the contract.
So that $2.5 million is for the services over 2 years?
Over a 2-year period, correct.
And what did we have budgeted initially for this project?
We have a little over $4 million in the project.
And of the $4 million, when you $4 million in the project already, let's explain that.
We have $4.3 million currently in the project that is available for the software and the licensing.
That's the budget.
That's the budget.
Said we had estimated $4.3 million.
That's the budget that we have.
All right, and we're going to be spending $2.5 million with this organization.
Correct.
And what remains to be done?
The public safety side of the ERP process is the same thing we're going through now. We're going through with public safety, which will be all of the police department modules, the investigation modules, the e-ticketing when we can go out and do the tickets electronically. We're working through that process now. We're narrowing it down to our finalists at this point, and we're almost there to a finalist, at which point we will let you know who that is. Then we will move forward with your blessing to negotiate with them for prices.
Is it anticipated that we're going to be able to come in under the $4.3 million?
Absolutely.
Estimate? Thank you. Does the council have other questions? Councilmember DiPolito.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The 2.5 is for complete implementation. This will get us an actual working system, everything in place. Is that correct?
Absolutely. This will be turnkey for the general government side. Those things that we had mentioned before, the financials, payroll and HR, tax billing, business license, work orders, all the things that we're using on the general government side, this would be turnkey for that.
Okay. And does this also incorporate some of the current systems that we have that we're going to continue to use?
If there are those that can be integrated in, right, they will be. For the most part, we'll be replacing most of our legacy systems that we have.
Okay. Are there any that you can think of off the top of your head that we're going to keep and integrate?
I don't know of any right off the top of my head at this point.
Okay. All right. But this will get us a complete system. This is all the costs involved to implement.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions? Councilman Eichelhardt.
Well, I just want to say thank you to all the people involved with this, because this has been a multi-year project. Many people who aren't even here anymore have been working on this thing. And those who are still here may not be here after this just to be done with it. But it will transform the way that we do business, and it will totally improve almost everything that we do. And I'm particularly happy that we have come much lower than some of the dollar figures we were talking about years ago, and thank you for all the work to make that happen. I know we spent another, $500,000 on the hardware part, and there's more of the public safety still, but still substantially lower than what we had feared. But thank you, and I hope that the press here can also say that we are truly moving way forward ahead of what we've ever been, and will move us into maybe the next century, finally get us into this one, and maybe move us forward as well.
Yes.
So thank you for all the work.
Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Any further discussion by council? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Do we have a motion? We don't have a motion. Do we have a motion?
Before I make a motion, thank you, Michael, for your efforts in spearheading this, and all the staff people that worked on it, because we really did get the involvement of all the departments in the city in trying to make this the right project to work for us long term. I've been looking for us to replace our old system for many, many years, almost since it was started. And there's some concern about spending a lot of money or trying to get $5 million together to do this. Right. But it's all coming together now, and I appreciate that. Appreciate your efforts. So, right. And with that, I'll move for approval.
Motion for approval by Councilmember Orlins. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Nguyen. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
This time I'll call upon Councilmember Becky Nguyen, liaison to the Environmental Public Works Department.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Approval for the mayor and/or city administrator to sign a contract extension with Integrated Science and Engineering Incorporated for implementation of the stormwater utilities, and approval of budget amendment 7110 CP-01-24-11 in the amount of $40,000 for the implementation of the stormwater utility. Mr. Mooring.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much. The stormwater utility has been in development since about 2005. We contracted at that time with ISE. It was subsequently amended in 2007 for the implementation. The total amount for proceeding at that time for what was estimated at an 18-month job was $200,000. There have been several delays that caused that to be extended, and the current estimate for remaining work to be done for the implementation is about $76,000. There's $38,000 remaining in the current budget. So in order to fulfill that implementation program, we need an extra budget amount of approximately $40,000. The staff has, and this is an estimated cost not to exceed. Based on prior work that ISE has done, we believe this to be a conservative estimate. That is to say, it will probably be less than that, but it will not exceed that amount. When the stormwater utility fee is implemented, this expense will be reimbursable from that fund. And I'll be happy to take any other detailed questions you may have.
Does the council have any questions? Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion for approval by Councilmember Nguyen. Is there a second? Second. Second by Councilmember Orlins. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Any further discussion by council? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes. Ms. Price, are you voting?
I will.
Okay, that's 5 in favor. Councilmember Orlins, Councilmember Eichelhart, are you? Let me see the hands again. Those are 4. Councilmember Orlins, Councilmember Eichelhart, Councilmember Nguyen, Councilmember DiPolito, and Councilmember Diamond. All those opposed? Councilmember Price. Passes 5-1. If you'll call the next item.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a feel-good one. I think this is great. And I do want to applaud our Environmental Public Works for actually delving into this, and Danny Black, I'm pretty sure, had a big hand in it. Approval of a resolution to apply for a Coca-Cola Curbside Acceleration Recycling Program grant for $100,000 to increase curbside recycling through education and incentives. Mr. Mooring.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much. You're right. This is a tribute to the staff of the Environmental Public Works Department. Janet Liberman in particular, who found this grant. This would be a 100% grant, no city match required. The Coca-Cola Company has a little over $1 million available for the state of Georgia to do incentive grants to increase curbside recycling of their containers, cans and bottles. And so they are particularly interested in working with communities that have demonstrated a strong propensity for recycling, and of course Roswell is high in that category. We are proposing a grant application for $100,000, and we'll partner with our curbside recycling contractor, CWS, who has contributed $1 million worth of recycling containers to the city, and they are well regarded in the field. And I commend this program to you and request your approval.
Do we have a motion for approval?
Motion to approve and give my thanks to Janet for finding
Yes, ma'am, absolutely.
Motion for approval by Councilmember Wynn. Is there a second? Second. Second by Councilmember Orleans. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Any further discussion by council? Councilmember Price.
Just one comment, maybe for about the loss of revenues. If there's increased curbside, that we redouble our efforts to educate our public to, bring things to the recycling center as well.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. That's a very good point.
Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously. This time I'll call upon Councilmember Rich DiPolito, liaison to the Transportation Department.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This item is approval to award a contract to Arcadis for the Holcomb Bridge Road corridor study in the amount not to exceed $463,000, and approval to sign a Georgia Department of Transportation planning contract for this project. This is an exciting project for me. Steve and I have been talking about ways to improve the bridge going over 400 since the very first day I took over as liaison to the Department of Transportation. So I was very excited to see that we have the opportunity now to do a corridor study. And with Mr. Asenbrack's leadership, we were able to get that 80% funded through some federal funds, and we just have a 20% match. So, Mr. Asenbrack.
Thank you, Councilmember DiPolito. Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, I am equally excited to bring to you tonight a very exciting and meaningful project for the City of Roswell. What I'd like to tell you, just refresh your memory a little bit, a few graphics here. This is the scope of the project, and if I can zoom down here just a little bit. This is an aerial of Holcomb Bridge Road, and in the center is Georgia 400 with Holcomb Bridge. And so the scope of this study goes from on the western side over to Warsaw and then to Holcomb Ridge Parkway on the east side. So it's about a 1.5-mile corridor and one of the busiest parts of our city. What we are attempting to do here is actually a little bit complicated, and that's why I brought a fellow department head with me, Alice Wakefield. What we're trying to do is not only the traffic aspect of this, which, as we all know, that's one of the most congested corridors, but there's a lot of prime businesses right there as well. So our primary focus is looking at the traffic issues out in that area. We also want to look at the economic development, and I'll talk about that in just a moment, about the overlap between our two departments. And then finally, an aesthetic portion where we want to improve the image of that area, not just as a commercial corridor, not just as a business area, but it is in many ways a gateway to our city. So To go back just quickly, we advertised for consulting support for this. We received 6 proposals. We used a qualifications-based selection, and I'm very pleased tonight to present to you the firm of Arcadis as the prime consultant. Their sub-consultant Pond was also doing the comp plan, and what I wanted to do was show you one of the things that we like in these proposals is when the proposed consultant team puts together a rendering, and they did that, and I wanted to show you that tonight. This was in their proposal, but this is basically some effort that they've already put into this before they were even selected. They wanted to say, look, we want this project. We believe that we're the best qualified firm. And so what they did was presented, say, a bird's eye view of what Holcomb Bridge over Georgia 400 with some landscaping and with some attention to the bridge could look like. And this is, again, it's just a concept, but we hope that this is going to bring a very big, just a huge benefit to the whole area. Another thing that I'd like to bring to your attention is the timeline. I put a very rough sketch together, and I hope you can see that. Is that out of focus? It's a little blurry here. Can I get some help maybe on this? How's that? Okay, so what this is designed to show you is that the city's comprehensive plan is already underway. And we are far along here, as you can see, with the participant, the community participation. We have the proposed economic development plan, which is also integrated in here, and then you've got the Holcomb Bridge corridor study. And the takeaway that I want to make sure you understand is that, that what is coming out of the comprehensive plan is going to feed very nicely into our Holcomb Bridge corridor study. So the timing is really good. We've already captured a lot of data through the comprehensive plan. We're going to feed that into the Holcomb Bridge corridor study, and in many ways, you can see here we've got a draft coming down in here into the study itself. So much of the data that will be generated by the comprehensive plan will feed directly into this. So we can tie the transportation and land use together, as we've been talking about for a long time. This is exactly where the two come together. This is the nexus. And then Alice will finish hers, and of course you see a line here where DCA needs to review it. We'll be well along in our study by then, and we'll be able to then also incorporate more response back from that. And of course, Mayor, I know the biggest question you have is about the budget. The $463,000 fee that we negotiated with Arcadis is within our budgeted amount for this project. So I would like to recommend the City Council approve awarding this council to the team of Arcadis, Pond, and Edwards Pittman, as well as signing the planning contract with the Georgia Department of Transportation.
Now, the $463,000, that's the total cost.
Yes, sir.
And what is the city's share?
Mayor, our share will be 20% of that.
Ms. Love said it would be $99,572.
That is what we have budgeted, and that's what we
our taxpayers will be coming out of our general fund, $99,000.
It'll actually wind up being a little less because that was based on the $499,000.
That's correct.
So $99,000 roundabout.
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, once we get this corridor plan, what does that position us to do? Because I always tell folks, plans don't do anything. You've got to go beyond the plan to really have a project.
Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor, we are fundamentally focused on, we've sort of divided this up into a short-term and long-term. Short-term, working with some of the projects that we already have underway, we are going to look at improving the mobility of that area for all of our citizens, not just for cars and for freight, but also pedestrians, bicycles, wheelchairs, the ADA issues. What we'll do also in the short term is look at things like some of the more out-of-the-box ideas that have come up recently are things like diverging diamonds, which is that strange little spaghetti noodle twisted thing that you see where the cars would go in opposing lanes and then come back in order to minimize the number of conflict points over an area like a bridge over an intersection. This firm is going to study that in detail and tell us whether that is economically and viable from an engineering standpoint. It will also pave the way for long-term improvements of that entire corridor. When we think about things that are coming down the pike, such as managed lanes, such as the future of the Big Creek Bridge, how those pieces all interconnect, this study will provide us with the rock-solid background of how all of those pieces fit together, which is something we don't have right now, and we're very anxious to get out of this study.
So the study will position us so that we can then move forward with the improvement.
Yes, sir. That's exactly right.
And will it position us so we're in a better position to apply for state and federal funding?
Yes, sir.
And this is all preliminary to getting that state and federal funding
Yes, sir.
and doing the project.
Yes, sir. The Office of Planning is exactly going to guide us down that path to make sure that we're meeting all of those federal requirements.
So it's not just a conceptual plan, it will actually lead to a plan that can be implemented.
Yes, sir. And if there are, I know Councilwoman Wynn does not like the low-hanging fruit analogy. However, if there are early successes on things like landscaping or some decorative treatments or some other things that we will do, we will actually harvest those early and go ahead and seek money to go ahead and implement those if we can work those through our budget.
Does the council have any other questions? Councilmember Wynn.
I like the one early successes. That sounds a lot better. First of all, I want to commend you all because I see that you're also bringing in the Big Creek Bridge road study into that. So that kind of proves that we're not doing studies and putting them up on the shelf. We're actually implementing it. And I do like this idea that we're all working together as a team. So that's really great to see ComDev and transportation working hand in hand on this. But I want you to explain one thing, and I think it's more for the audience out here. When you said a Georgia Department, a GDOT planning contract, if you can explain to us what a GDOT planning contract is, how we have to bring
it's
in
just
GDOT.
our framework agreement. There's federal funds involved in this, and GDOT is the agent within the state of Georgia to manage this. It's the pass-through agency for those federal funds. So the federal funds that we're using in this, they are the agency that ensures to the federal government that we're using those funds accurately. And so it's a standard format that just says, yes, we are sharing in the costs, and they will be looking over our shoulder to make sure that we're doing all the right things. We're doing the modeling, we're doing the counts, we're doing the accident analysis, that we're doing all the things that will provide it to make it a meaningful study.
Thank you.
Other questions? Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion by Councilmember DiPolito. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Diamond. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Yes, come forward, please.
Lynn McIntyre, 2210 Steeplechase Lane, Roswell, Georgia. Just wonder if there is a mass transit piece in this study?
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Any further? Is there a bicycle ped piece in this?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, there absolutely is.
Thank you. Any further discussion by council? All in favor of the motion, raise your hands. Passes unanimously.
Great, Alice, thanks.
Councilmember DiPolito, you have another item?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The next item is approval of a resolution for acceptance of land donation. Mr. Strickland.
Good evening. We have a gift from Mike Mills, who is the owner of Heavy Equipment, Inc., who owns the property at the southwest corner of Northfield Place and Old Roswell Road, but not including the detention pond, of 7.25 acres through the city. In that, he only requires that we pay the 2010 taxes, and that he has the ability to name the park Mike Mills Park at Coal Killer Creek. And it's a donation of about $990,000 in value, and the taxes that are due is only $7,000. He also enables us to make a deal with the adjacent landowner if we like over a signage issue, which is how we got here in the first place.
Do we have a recommendation from our Rec and Parks Commission?
Rec and Parks recommended approval.
Does the council have any questions? Councilmember DiPolito.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Strickland, do we have an idea of what the ongoing maintenance costs are for this property?
The best use of this property in the past is open space, no maintenance.
Yeah, so we would leave it natural, or just be a passive park? Maybe
That's
some trails?
that's kind of what has been envisioned. It could also be used for something more recreational, more active recreation. It can be used for passive. It can be used for open space. It can be used for trails. The owner hasn't stipulated how it can be used. It's up to us as long as we keep it as a park or in some sort of non-profit use. We can use it any way we want. And it's up to the Parks Department if they want to use it for something more active. They've looked at the idea of possibly using it for a lacrosse field, which would require maintenance, but that would be a future decision. It is big enough. It would require some active grading. It would take a large amount.
I was going to say, is the topography consistent with a field?
It would be possible. It's just not easy.
Okay. So in the near term, there would be
Near term,
little
the best
to no
is
maintenance unless we decide to use
natural
it
side.
otherwise.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions? Councilmember Price.
Are the taxes for 2010 in arrears?
Yes, they are now. They offered it to us back in December when it was just past due. And it's taken us, because of the snow and everything else we didn't meet, and it's taken us some time to actually meet.
Does anyone know approximately what the taxes were?
$7,299, more or less. They must have paid some of them, because it would normally be about $13,000.
And the value of the property is deemed to be?
$990,000.
I guess my question is, being a gift, I guess the donor can determine the use of it in the future. Is that correct? Or
The city can determine the use of it in the future. By a gift, he's just saying, this is the stipulation by which I give it to the city.
And is there any end term on that? Is that
No.
in perpetuity? Or
Perpetuity.
Kind of like Terramont. Use as a park, now that can be broadly construed.
I guess my question is could it ever be used for something else?
Yes, it could be used for something else if the city chose to use it for something else, as long as it was for a non-profit type of use. You could actually even sell it to somebody as long as it was a
That's what I
non-profit
mean.
type of use.
Could it
We
be
can
used?
put a fire station there.
We could? I mean, so it is.
A lot of work.
It is permanently restricted to that.
By the deed of
Refer to
gift,
our
yeah.
large-
It's a condition of the acceptance, so if you don't want it to be permanently in a nonprofit mode, then you would have to reject it and go back, and hopefully he was donated for other reasons, but it's just a condition of the acceptance.
Well, I figure if it can't be developed and he gets a tax write-off for $1 million, does he really care what we do with it?
He said he did. He said he would like it to be used for a park and is with named for him. Or government use. And I think if the intent was we're going to accept it and sell it, I think we need to tell him that. But I support acceptance of it for government. It's on a beautiful creek. I think one day it would be part of a trail system that was on Foakiller Creek and a trailhead. So I would envision it ultimately being used for a park because a lot of the land is along the creek and better not put in development.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Do we have a motion?
We have to approve.
Motion to approve by Councilmember DiPolito. Do we have a second? Second by Councilmember Orleans. Further, does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Further discussion? All in favor? Passes unanimously. Let us, if you will remind me, I would like to write him a personal thank you letter and invite him to come and have a picnic lunch on the property. It is a beautiful piece of property. If the council hasn't been there, it's right next to Lick Skillet. I've canoed that section. They're fishing that creek. It will make a beautiful, undisturbed green space and potentially a trailhead for a great trail system one day. And thank you for bringing it forward to us. We're to our city attorney for his report.
Thank you, Mayor. The first item is the approval of Phase 2 of the Tower Cloud lease to build fiber on the High Tower water tank site, which is located on the city property. Tower Cloud is proposing to serve its wireless customers, which are basically cell companies, with a fiber optic cable. Currently, in December, the council approved a lease for them to have a microwave dish on the water tank itself. This will remove that tank. They currently have basically a 4x4 box on the ground with fiber optic cable running through an existing utility easement on the property. This will allow them to keep the 4x4 box while removing everything from the actual water tank. The term of the rent we will receive would be $500 per month, simply for the 4x4 ground space. And if there's any questions, I'll try to answer them.
Does the council have any questions? Councilman Orleans.
And Mr. Davidson, because I brought up originally, in some of the information you put in our package, it seems like the $500 is pretty low on the rental scale for this ground lease. What can you add to that? Anything?
The information that I provided you was for actual antennas on a water tank.
Right.
I have not been able to find in any city where they actually have leased a water tank site just for the actual cabinet. They usually have the wires going up the water tank and then the antennas up on the tank. This is basically just a equipment cabinet with the fiber optics running through an existing utility easement where all the other providers have their
right, but
stuff running through it.
It's still including everything except running the wires up on the tank. It's still taking the use of the property, still the maintenance going in and out, and it's rent is supply and demand, and it just seems like $500 is very low from some of the exposure I've seen had about any kind of the wireless setups going into property.
And that's for this council to decide what they want to charge. I know that this is on the very high end of what they are willing to pay, so I don't know if any of their representatives are here or not. I don't think so, but council wishes, I'll go back and tell them that's not enough or that we're not interested. It's up to this council.
Well, I'm not trying to say we're not interested. I just think that back to what I said, supply and demand, that we're getting a fair price for it, and it just seems on the low side for the business.
Mr. Davidson, do you know what the market is for sites like this?
The only thing I've seen was $300, but that was nowhere near here, so I don't know anybody else that's actually doing it on a water tank site, just on a 4x4. They have a microwave dish on an existing tower that the city does not own. I think it's a Crown Castle tower. And basically they just run their box, runs the fiber optics to that dish, and then they send out the signal. This is not for consumers. This is for the actual cell companies to provide the 4G service.
Councilmember Eichelhardt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to clarify something that you said, Mr. Davidson, about this is at the high end of what they're willing to pay. So are they saying that higher than this they won't pay and they will just remove it?
Well, they're already removing everything from the tower.
Right.
And now they're just going to have the 4x4 box, which is already there, and then the underground fiber optics, which are already there. So they would have to remove it under the current lease. We have a current 6-month lease with them where they're paying the $2,500 that we normally charge. But they would have to remove it under the terms of that lease if they leave, yes.
Well, I understand that they're going to remove the dish, but that's why I'm asking about the existing box that is a lease.
They would have to
issue, so-
remove that box also, yeah.
Right, but they're saying that they will not pay more than $500, and if we make a higher...
I don't know what is where they stop making a profit on this, so from my earlier discussions with them, this was at the very high end. They came in at $300 originally, and they went up to $500 after much beating and...
My suggestion would to research this and to see what other jurisdictions they might be paying and what the sort of going rate is.
Just looking at it,
if it's possible.
I've tried. I have not been able to find anything so far.
So right now they're paying us $2,500 a month, correct?
Right, to have their stuff on the tank.
For the normal type of setup.
Right.
So they're pulling the wires off the tank, and everything on the ground is still going to stay there. And it just seems like 1/5 of that doesn't calculate. Not that I'm an expert on it, but...
Because the amount that's being charged is not necessarily based on the amount of equipment. Isn't it the access in and of itself?
I think the council is raising a good point, and that is, are we getting a fair price? And Mr. Davidson, do you think there's any further research you could do on what a fair price was, or do you think we're just going to have to sort of...
I can attempt. I can continue to look and call more people.
Well, there are others, we couldn't be the only city with a
right. They're
water
obviously
tower.
in business, so I will find out where else they have.
I would just go to and ask them. I say, the council would like to know what you're paying other people, and just ask them, where do you have other locations, and go to them. If they refuse to give us the other locations, I think we know they're holding something back. But if they're forthcoming and say, we've got one in Gwinnett and Cobb, and here are their phone numbers, and you can call them up. I think that's the approach. I was at a negotiating at GMA. They were talking about negotiating. I said, ask them the question. Just ask them out, and you'll be amazed what you can find out when you ask a simple question. Because if this truly is the market rate, they'll be glad to share that with us and who else they're paying. And I can't imagine we're the only one in the universe in which they are paying the lease to. Councilman Orleans.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I know we've deferred this once, but, we've still got time on the current lease, so I'd like to defer it one more time, one more meeting, see if we can get any more additional information on it. So I'll move for deferral.
Motion for deferral by Councilman Orleans. Do we have a second? Second by Councilman Eichelhardt. All in favor, raise your hands. Passes unanimously. Did anybody want to comment on this? Moving right along.
The next item is the approval of amendment to the current telecommunications lease agreement dated November 21st, 2005 between the City of Roswell and New Singular Wireless, PCS, for adding 3 new antennas upon the High Tower water tank, which is owned by the city. Currently, the city receives $36,499.56 annually for 6 antennas and the equipment and the access and the equipment cabinet. On this site, they're intending to add just 3 new antennas up on the catwalk, and they've proposed an increase of $225 a month, or $2,700 annually if the council agrees to this amendment.
Do we have a going rate which we charge the people for antennas?
We usually don't charge by the antenna. We usually charge for basically the original lease, and they have to prove that they can go up on the tanks. Our normal charge is $2,500 with a 4% escalator. We are currently on the high end of what anybody receives that I've been able to find out. That's the items that were included in my memo. Usually on a water tank, people actually have to have a water system to have the water tank, so Forsyth County was one that I found. I got their rates. They get about $18,000 a year. Durham, North Carolina gets about $30,000. There's a couple in California that get $1,000 a month. The main point that the reason why we began allowing them from the research I've done was to stop the proliferation of the cell towers going up and having to fight these federal lawsuits that we're currently fighting right now. So we do want them on our water tanks. It's a win-win situation. We make money out of it, but again, it's up to council what you want to charge and if this is acceptable or not.
Are you recommending that we sign it at this price?
I would recommend that we sign it at this price.
Any other questions? Councilman Orleans.
When we first put in the idea of the antennas going on the water towers, and again, I'm going from memory, but I remember of charging really by the antenna going up. And again, I'm just looking at this from the increase of 50% in the number of antennas to cover their volume. We're getting less than a 10% increase in what we're being paid for. And looking at some of the other contracts, I mean, it's hard to look at some of these. Some are higher, some are lower. But again, it seems like that should be a little more of an increase than 10% for a 50% increase in access.
I will tell you the original leases that were negotiated, they usually called for 6 antennas, with them providing 6 more antennas at no charge at a later date.
Whose leases?
The original leases, the original cell companies going up on the water tanks.
On our water tank?
Yes.
Well, I don't remember that at all.
That was just something that allowed them to do it. But that was, a different technology at a different time, so.
Other questions? Do we have a motion?
If I may, if council will indulge me, and unfortunately, between getting my packet last week until tonight, I did not have the opportunity. I'm still scrambling to catch up from snow week. But I do have clients that deal with this, and I'd be happy to double check that way if we can defer it for one more meeting.
Is that a motion to defer?
I'll make that motion.
What meeting?
Next meeting.
Next regular council meeting? Not the special call, not the 5th Monday meeting.
Correct. Next regular special meeting. Regular meeting.
The 14th of February.
February.
Motion to defer to the 14th of February?
Second.
We have a second by Councilmember Wynn. Further discussion? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously.
The remaining item on my agenda is closure to discuss personnel.
And real estate.
I believe we
real
also
estate.
need real estate. We have a motion to discuss personnel and real estate and closure. Motion by Councilmember Price, second by Councilmember Orleans. All in favor, raise their hands. Passes unanimously. We're adjourned. We have a work session. We're adjourned, but we're not out of here. Room 220. What is our work session?
Mr. Mayor, 2 items. CDB